Hello guys, welcome to beginner C++ tutorial. In today's video we are going to look on variables and data types in C++. What is a data type and what is a variable? So first of all we are going to start with a variable. So a variable is a container or a memory space that stores values. It is like a labeled box where you store something specific. And what is a data type? So basically a data type is a form of storage that specifies something you can store. So basically a data type just specifies what type of a container it is. Is it a bucket? Is it a basket? Or is it a cup? So it simply defines what type of data can you store in a variable. So how are these two related? So in order for you to use a variable, it needs to have a data type. So it looks something like this in C++. When you have to use variables in C++, at the first we'll put a data type. Like in this case is int, which is pronounced as int. This represents integer, and the number, this is a variable name, the name of which you as a programmer you have to give it. This name has to make sense though it's not C++ dependent, but it has to make sense depending on the data type. Because like for example here, this integer is supposed to store integer variables. I name this as name, which is wrong. So when you have to use variables and data type in C++, it has to look something like this. What are common data types in C++? So the common data types which you us as a beginners will be using basically are these 5 important data types, which are also called primitive data types in C++. The first one is an integer or int. An int simply stores integer values, e.g. 0, 1, 2, -1, -3 and the like. As long as the number is an integer, you can store it in variable data type int. The second thing is a float and a double. See here, I've put such float/double. As a beginner, these data types basically store similar values. As we go on, you are going to see how these data types differ, but in this scenario they all store basically the same types, which are decimal values. So this data type, a float and a double, simply store decimal values like 0.23, 0.2, -0.3, -1 point something. As long as it's a decimal value, you can store using one of these. The other data type is a string. A string basically stores a plain text. What do we mean a plain text? This is anything that you can write or type from your keyboard, like in word, letters, characters and numbers. And we're going to see in examples once we started coding, as into when can you use numbers inside a string and how. So don't worry about that, we are going to handle that. The other type is a char or a character data type, abbreviated as char. We pronounce this char as char. So this basically stores a single character. When you say a single character, literally in programming we need every letter or a symbol or number is a character by default. So these characters can be an E, A, or a B, a hash, a @ symbol, a number. As long as you want to store it in a char, it is considered as a character. And last but not the least, important data types in C++ is bool, which is the short form of a boolean. So a bool usually stores a boolean value. These boolean value are only two values, a 1 or a 0, or true or false. So if you want to store true or false, the correct data type to use is a bool, which is a boolean value. Now let's get started with coding. How can you use this into coding? Let's get started.
Sorry, the time of recording this video my voice was low because I was recovering from having a flu. Consider subscribing, like, share and comment on the problem you want me to solve as a beginner.
Variables. So to declare a variable, you start with a data type. You have to decide what is it am I going to store. Is it a number, or is it a word or a plain text? So to declare, for example, I'm going to declare a variable of type data type int code age. So this is how you can declare a variable. So how can you assign value, or how can you make this age now to store a value? Is by saying the name of the variable, then assignment operator, then you pass the value. So in this line 5, I've declared the variable called age of type int. I'm telling the computer that I want to store a value of number in a named box called age. Then on line 6, now I'm telling the computer, in that named box, store this value 12. So how can I print out this now? I can simply say cout, then giving the name of a variable like this. So this will print 12 to the on the screen. So let's run our program by pressing F11 if you're on the Windows machine. So you can see our program is printing 12 to the screen. You can do this with all data types. So let's try to write something and practice how we can declare multiple data types. So we are going to start, we're going to describe, let's say, a fruit. We know that a fruit can have a name, a fruit can have a color, a fruit can have a price. So I'm going to start with int price. Second, we are going to say okay, instead of making int price, let's make int to be number, the number or serial number of a fruit. Let's say you are trying to buy from the supermarket, then you're going to have a double price, then we are going to have string name, a fruit name, then what else can do? A char fruit symbol, like that. By the way, when you are trying to name a variable with multiple words, what you have to do, there are two ways of doing it. Is by either using an underscore joining them, or using what you call camel case. When you start the second word, you put in a capital letter. This is what we call camel casing. Or you can just use an underscore and connect as multiple words as you like. So next, we are going to declare a variable boolean. Said we call is ripe, like this. Next, now we are going to assign values to these variables. So first, number, we know that apple is number 1, not so. So 1. Next, let's give an apple a price. So I'm going to say price should be equal to Is Apple that expensive? I don't think so. Next, we are going to pass a symbol for Apple. So I'm going to say float symbol, which is name of my variable. I'm going to pass a. So if you notice, when you are dealing with characters, when you want to assign a character to a character variable, in C++ we use a single quote. You see, for a string, let's add something for a string here. Which is already there. Let's give it a name. So a name is a string. So you see that when you are doing a string, we use a double quotes to pass a string. A name, already know that this is an apple. Next, I think that's all. So let's try to print these values stored in these variables. So I'm going to say cout. You can start with any, doesn't matter the order in which they are. So I'm going to start with name, then I'm going to add end L. So end L means the end of the line. So when the computer prints this to the screen, instead of when starting to print the second thing printing at the end of this line, it has to start a new line. So next, I'm going to say cout float symbol, like that. Also put an end line. I'm going to do the same for all remaining variables. So price then is ripe. I just remembered you haven't given for a value for is ripe. So is ripe, a Boolean value can receive two values, either false or true. So this we're going to say true. So note, you can pass true, false, or you can also pass 1 or 0. They all mean the same. So 1 means true, 0 means false, or you can directly type true in small letters or false in small letters. So let's try to run our program. We see what we've created. Again, you can press F11 or you can go to execute, compile and run. Oh, there's misspelling here. It's supposed to be number. We've copied the wrong one. Okay, let's change this quickly. Okay, we even include it here. Okay, like this. So again, execute, compile and run. So it has compiled without error. Now it's running. So after running, you can see that it's printing apple, which is number 1, character A, price 12, and boolean, which is 1, which is true. So this is how you can use variable. You can also apart from this, you can also add variables if they are of the same type. You can divide, you can multiply, but you cannot multiply strings. So let's try to practice some of these variables. We can perform multiplication. Let's say I have this variable, two variables, int num1 and int num2. Num1 I'm going to assign 10. Num2, I'm going to assign 2. So I can just come here and create another variable called int results, or let's name it sum, since we want to add this sum. Then I can say sum is equal to num1 plus num2. So what's going to happen here, since num1 is storing 10, num2 is storing 10, it's going to get 10, add it to 2, then store the results in sum. So if we come here now, I say sum, we print out sum, what you are expecting to see is 12, which is the addition of num1 and num2. So you can see here we are getting 12. So that's all about basic data types and variables. So next time we are going to go deeper into how can you apply now these variable use and data types into actual programming.